So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. I am going to issue a blanket apology for my voice. It's back worse. And my coughing. I forgot cough drops, so I'll try not to talk too much. I'm wanting to recognize Michael Becker and Dan Zambreski and Michael's two sons.
Miles and Max.
Miles and Max.
Hi, Miles and Max.
Welcome to...
The 3 M's.
Oh, you do?
I have like
I might, yeah.
Why don't you proceed?
Okay. Are there additions to the agenda?
I don't have.
I have none.
So I have one which is time sensitive. I was hoping that we could talk about the social media policy amendment, but we are not prepared to do so, and it is not time sensitive, so we can do that at the next meeting.
So we're striking the social media?
Yes.
Okay.
I had put that in over the weekend thinking we might have answers, but we don't. We will talk about appointing an alternate representative to Wyndham Solid Waste, and the reason for that is that there is a special meeting on Thursday, February 14th that I cannot go, and we have an alternate. Thank you so much. And we'll do that under new business, the first item of new business. Are there changes to the agenda order? None. So first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 28th, 2019.
I so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dan Zambreski, you're on for your general update.
Well, we've had a lot of ice this year, and we've been going through sand as fast as we can truck it in. Last week we hauled in our last 100 or so yards. I'm out of sand money. This morning I ordered our last 50 ton of salt, and that cleans us out of salt money. So the shed will be full, salt shed will be full. The sand shed is probably a third full. We've had a couple of roads that everybody called it mud, but it wasn't mud, it was just ruts. So we've had to haul some gravel for that already. I'm a little concerned about this spring. We only got like 25,000 left for gravel for mud. And that may not get us through if the bottoms drop out. So we'll just have to play it by ear and see how that's going to work out. And then also we've had a lot of repair this year. We're way over our budget on repairs. Some years you were way under, and some years you're way over. So it just seems every time we turn around, something's happening. So last Thursday, right after we got done sanding, we hauled some sand, and Dickie got down in the pit and lost the fan belt on his truck. Well, what happened? The idler tensioner went, and then when it did, it took the fan belt and the alternator belt, and of course they had to order the parts for it, and got that back on the road on Friday. So, and the purple truck is back over to Claremont again because we're having computer issues with that again. So it's been one thing right after another. Everything else seems to be holding up right now, for the time being.
Including you.
The ice dam is gone?
It is what it is, Richard.
The ice dam is gone?
Pardon?
The ice dam is gone on River Road?
I still didn't understand.
The ice dam on River
Oh,
Road.
the ice dam, yes. Last Friday, of course it warmed up pretty well, and we had the rain Thursday night. The water kicked back out down towards Burham's again. And I went over and Michael and I talked. Michael Mtg, and he went up the brook right where his machine parked, and there was probably another couple hours he did, and now the water's going back down where it's supposed to.
Great.
So he did that on...
You did it on Friday, not Monday?
He did it on I think he moved over there on a Tuesday afternoon, and he did it Tuesday afternoon, and then did a little bit Friday, so...
Good, well, I'm glad it's cleared up, thank you.
It's going to be under our estimate that we...
Great, awesome.
Dan, on the gravel concern with your tenure, do you have any recommendations in terms of what we might need?
I don't know.
You know, it's just going to be a crapshoot with
You know, the biggest thing is when I do my budget, the money that I budget for our gravel for the city, that usually is to cover us in mud season.
Right.
And now we're doing a lot of this extra stone line ditching. Well, that material, that money's coming out of that. So, I mean, I have to be sort of careful how we do it after the 1st of July, because I don't want to cut myself short for mud season.
Right.
You know, we could get, the bottoms could drop out of the bottom of the road. We could spend oodles of money.
Right.
So,
Okay.
But we have a highway reserve fund to cover those kinds of
yeah, I just want to give you
unanticipated
guys a heads
expenses.
up.
No, I appreciate that.
I mean,
Thank you.
hopefully, you know, we still got some winter left.
Yeah.
The sun's getting higher and a little hotter, so usually you get a snowstorm, you go out and sand. You get these ice storms, we're sanding 3-4 times around.
Right.
We're using the average ice storm over 400 yards of sand whack. So it don't take long to go through sand. And the salt's the same way, you know, we try to be a little conservative on it, and, you know, they'll deliver 40, 50 ton, and we'll use three quarters of that in two storms. So, I've been keeping my salt shed full just because I'm afraid all of a sudden they're gonna say, well, there may be a shortage. And that's happened in the past. And so I've been keeping that pretty full.
That's smart.
And you guys get the expenditure sheet.
Yep.
Our wages are looking pretty good right now. We're about half for both summer and winter. So hopefully things will sort of mellow out. It'll be good, hopefully.
So does this snow to ice, you know, the wintry mix pattern, does it seem like we're having more of that than we used to?
Yes. You know, and snowstorms, I send guys home. They go home for a couple hours, you know, we try to get going at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. We've had a lot of afternoons where it started storming at 5, 6 in the afternoon. Well, guess what? We're doing all-nighters.
Yeah.
Everybody's working around the clock, just to try to keep up with it. So, I mean, snow's a lot easier to deal with. I mean, the ice is, I'd rather have snow than the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so would we all.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Danny? Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
The first item for new business, I'd like to make the appointment of an alternate to Wyndham Solid Waste Management District. I've been serving as our regular alternate, and I've been to the December and January meetings. They called a special meeting. Usually there isn't a meeting in February, but they called one, and I will not be here on Thursday. So I approached Cheryl and I asked her if she would be willing to be the alternate. And thank goodness she said yes.
Oh, good.
Terrific.
I know, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, because she does really have 4 family issues that she's trying to take care of. And she thinks that I'll probably be having a better Valentine's evening than she will. But the issue at hand on Thursday is an important one. It's about a grant and organic waste and flow control, which means are we going to have a monopoly for where the organics go in Wyndham Solid Waste. And she actually understands that better than I do, although I've been in communication with Brattleboro and with Bob Spencer. So I would entertain a motion to send Wyndham Solid Waste a note that says Cheryl will serve as the alternate if I'm not available.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Thank you,
All in
Cheryl.
favor?
Aye.
And I just want to tell, I was like so grateful to Cheryl, I cannot tell you, because I've even had to consult her on this issue, so she's been very helpful.
Well, she's probably relieved about all the meetings that you're going to.
We have an issue here. We wanted to say something, Peter wants to say something about the Conservation Commission.
So as you all know, I applied to this grant with the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation for
The ash bar.
Yes, exactly. And I just wanted to give my appreciation to the Conservation Commissioners, particularly to Marley and Bill, because they very graciously did a lot of the background work just for the Conservation Commission, and they shared all of that information with me. And so all I had to do was compile what they shared with me and put it into the grant, which made my job much, much easier. So I just wanted to thank them for all the hard work they did. And so I applied for it, and we will wait and see if we get it.
Well, thank you for your part in doing it too. I mean, our commissions are really, I mean, just in the time I've been on the select board, I've been so impressed with how hard all of our different groups are working and how they work together as well.
Thank you.
And do they still need another member?
The Conservation Commission?
Yeah, I think,
Yes, they're
doesn't,
looking for another member.
yeah, yeah.
Well, in March, we will be reviewing all the appointments, and so if people know of somebody who wants to volunteer to serve on the Conservation Commission, we'll be reviewing all the commissions, so it would be a good time to start thinking about that.
Well,
and
and
make
just
some recommendations.
knowing what a high-functioning, hard-working commission they are, it's a really good group to join for our studio audience, you know.
Next item on the agenda is the Vermont League of Cities and Towns self-governance proposal. Peter distributed lots of information about it.
Yes.
There was a fair amount of reading. And the idea was, should Guilford apply to be one of the 10 towns that examines the home rule option?
It seemed to me, I mean, I don't see any downside of it, but in my reading, it seemed that the small cities and towns had much more stake in home rule. I mean, it seemed to present much more of an improvement in their autonomy and nimble behavior and everything like that. Then, you know, I was trying to think of what Guilford might want to do that we could do differently or better with home rule, and I wondered whether that was something anybody had any insight into.
My question exactly, so I didn't know.
One thing the materials did make clear to me is what is it that how does the state obstruct what Guilford wants to do legislatively? And you know, it wasn't clear to me in any of that material where the state is interfering in the autonomy. I'm sure it is, but it's not articulated in any of the materials that we had, except for Judge Dillon's premise. But what is the premise based on as it applies to our state and this town?
I was going to say, I'm not sure that it does. I mean, I think it's different for a bigger town that has a lot more different departments and can actually function at a broader level. Dillon's role restricts what select boards can do. They can only do what the state gives them the authority to do. I don't see how that's a problem for us. My concern is actually the opposite, that if we have to go and deal with things that have related to infrastructure, health, or, we don't even have zoning, but things, building inspections, we don't have the capacity to actually do that. Or I think it would detrimentally affect taxes.
No, and I agree with you. That's kind of where my head was
Because
at.
we would need more employees or more staff, and that means the taxes would go up.
So let me just understand, if is the Vermont League of Cities and Towns advocating for the whole state to have quote-unquote home rule, or for the towns that want to?
They're advocating for a 10-year pilot
Experiment.
A pilot program with 10 communities throughout the state to be part of this pilot program.
But once again, as Gabby pointed out, larger towns and small cities would perhaps have a lot more to gain, and that the small towns would really have something to lose.
I agree, but I think that we would be taking, A, we might be losing something, and B, we would be taking the opportunity for a town that really needed it. away if we were to be.
If we were one of the
If we were to
10.
be one of the 10 applicants selected, or one of the applicants selected to be in the pilot program.
And I know Brattleboro's considering it.
Their select board has already made a motion to.
Okay, they already did it.
Yes, they did.
I mean, in terms of local control and home rule, I mean, it's out of our jurisdiction. But Act 46 seemed to me like the biggest sort of top-down change in the way everybody has to do business in Vermont, you know, how our schools are run. But we're not here to talk about that.
So I wanted to read Steve Lemke's note on this topic. He said he went to a Wyndham Regional Council legislators' brown bag lunch discussion with Senator Jeanette White, who discussed the self-governance pilot proposal. And he goes on to say, considering Guilford's citizenry and the number of people who are generally anti-state regulations, I highly encourage the town to apply to be one of the pilot towns. I don't know if we're anti-state. We have to do, if we were in this pilot program, we would still have to, we could not do anything that is against the law, in federal or the state law. So I don't know how that would benefit people who are generally anti-state regulations. Or I don't understand the thinking there, but Gabby, were you at that brown bag?
I was. It was discussed briefly, but I don't have any. I mean, the information that was shared with us by Peter is more in depth than what was discussed at the lunch.
Okay. Peter, what I didn't get from this material was when this application is due.
From the materials I've seen, what you guys got over the weekend was 99% of what I've received so far. From all the stuff that VLCT has put out about it, there is no timeline as of yet, and that's partially because the state legislature has to approve it. So this is something that they have proposed to the legislature that Jeanette White and I'm forgetting the name of the other individual who proposed it in each of the houses just a week and a half ago at the beginning of the session. So it has to go through the legislature, get approved for the pilot program to start. And what VLCT is asking is for more towns than the 10 to make a motion to that showing interest in it, and then once it comes out, then towns will have to apply to be a part of it. So making the motion doesn't guarantee that you will be part of the pilot program. It just shows that you have interest and you'll be considered in the group.
Gabby, could you summarize how would the pilot work? I mean, what is the purpose of the pilot? Because the state laws are going to remain the same during the 10-year pilot period, right? So what would a
They'd
town?
get an exemption.
What?
They'd get, the towns,
they
the
would
pilot would get an exemption
I
from
get
that and say, hey, you actually town get, I don't know that's gonna be that much more power, but like all this extra power that you wouldn't normally have, let's see how that works out.
So you could set, I mean, they've given you examples
they-
of setting
yeah.
taxes and
Right.
And the
developing
legislature-
funding sources and partnerships that are independent of state, so not regulated.
And the legislature would let these 10 towns.
Actually implement
And
them.
Be an exception to that.
Yeah.
And I think it makes sense for a certain type of town, really.
Well, it would be interesting, I mean, I'd be interested to see as an observer how this experiment affects towns that are like our towns.
So this is being discussed on Thursday at the State House, right? And you're gonna be at the State House?
Yes.
Both of you are. What are you doing, Miranda? You're
I'm
giving the dedication-
delivering the devotional at the state legislature on Valentine's Day.
That is lovely.
In fact, Danny is going to be in it.
What are we doing?
I mean, you're not going, you don't have to go to Montpelier,
No.
but I've been
Your
asked,
name will be used.
I've been asked to deliver the devotional, which is like a little inspirational talk. And so I decided to do it on Valentine's Day, and so it's really about, well, it's about what a great town Guilford is, but it's disguised as talking about just about the way we operate here, and about listening to people, and the flood and fluvial erosion hazard debate, and the kind of stepping away from blame you know, that we noticed, that's part of it as well. So I'm going to be up there, and I'm delivering that at 1 o'clock, and
So
then at
you could
1:30.
be hearing the keynote speaker. That's at lunchtime, isn't it, the keynote
correct.
speaker? So there's a workshop at noon,
Uh-huh.
you know, with meet your legislators, and the
Yeah, I can
keynote
be
speaker is
here
going to
for
be
that.
talking about this topic.
Yes,
And so maybe what we do is we consider whether or not, as a town, we are supportive of this pilot program without saying we want to apply for it, because that would support VLCT in their efforts. And then we find out more about whether there's a reason for us to apply. Because we don't have to make a decision about application for a long time, it would seem to me. Am I
I
correct in
would
that?
agree based on, I would hope that based on what's
So
been
with
shared
that,
so far, the too many
should we-
questions.
yeah, I can meet you up there, and we can go to it and hope that we don't get iced or snowed in, and compare notes.
Sounds good.
So should we just have an amendment supporting VLCT's self-governance?
amendment or a motion?
A motion, I'm sorry.
Supporting,
VLCT's self-governance proposal to the state legislature.
Does that need to be in faster than the application
It's
process?
separate, it's not an
Separate,
application,
it's
it's
not
just
So we support
supporting.
that, but we're not
We
saying.
support their
Right,
efforts
but,
on
and,
their
but not,
policy movement.
we're not saying that we're putting ourselves forward as one
Right.
of the, no,
Yeah.
I would go for that. I make that motion.
You do,
Yes.
and I'll second it.
thank you. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So you could just send that to Karen and,
I will.
excuse me.
I mean, but the way they discussed it, it was really like, you know, that the sky was going to
A fall,
open and the
right.
10 Commandments were going to come.
Charlton
They were going to
Heston,
abolish the 10 Commandments.
Charlton Heston was going to make his presence known in Vermont.
So the next item on the agenda is Better
No.
Connections Grant 2020. And we started to apply in 2018. We decided not to apply for this grant in 2019 because we were not ready. And what I presented to the select board this weekend was a roadmap to get to the application process. And I would entertain questions. I don't know, I'm sure everybody's had a chance to read it. Or I could just describe it quickly.
I had a question, just as a detail. One of the goals would be to have Guilford own a part of Route 5?
No.
That, it said something about.
Consider-
It talked about
It used the word
taking
own,
over that
yeah.
responsibility from the state.
Yeah, it
It
should,
would be owning it.
we would, but it's like, so I had a conversation.
Talk about home rule.
Separate conversation with Mark Pickering, and out of that came the, and I've worked with Danny on this too, the road safety audit report request. And so I said to Mark, like, in 2018, you recommended that Guilford consider taking over about a half-mile section of Route 5, and then we could do what we want to with it. And I said to him last week, why couldn't V-Trans partner with Guilford to make that section of the road more safer for everybody? And he said, well, the first thing we would have to do if we were to consider that is a road safety audit report, which the select board needs to formally request V-Trans to do. So that is the second part of this thing. Are we proposing that in a not yet existent grant application that Guilford take over Route 5? No,
Okay.
we're not. It
And it
might
wouldn't
be.
all of
No,
I
it
mean,
was a-
that
it said a
half a mile
portion,
section.
yeah.
No, we are not proposing, it just is, we should look at how to make that the safest possible space for Algiers Village and for all the people who use that space.
So are you
Without
looking
town
for,
ownership.
are you looking for affirmation for proceeding with, moving towards an application, basically?
So, two things. One is, I took this draft to Friends of Algiers Village and representatives of Guilford Preservation Inc., the church, and CC4G on Thursday and Friday of last week, and they all support this roadmap to get there. The select board needs to approve proceeding towards a grant application, and so does the planning commission. They need to have time to review it, and so do other possible stakeholders. We need, you know, so this is a draft of a way to get to actually completing an application, which is, you know, to get partners, to identify stakeholders, to have meetings with community members, to talk with business owners, and then to actually do the grant application. If it seems like we should go ahead with it at that point. So what I'm looking for is support of the process to determining whether we should go ahead with a grant application. And then we will have a period of discovery from now through October, November of next year, of this year. And then we'll decide if we want to do it. But in order for me to present it to the Planning Commission, the Select Board needs to approve the draft.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, I just was, well, I couldn't figure out exactly what we were going to ask for the grant.
So the grant in
Like what our project
2018 was about $40,000 to have a feasibility plan for basically road safety and improving the economic viability. So we would talk about the objectives of the grant, which are to help communities identify and prioritize goals, to develop an action-oriented roadmap to achieve those goals, and then to have a feasibility study, and then to link us to possible other philanthropic organizations or funding organizations. So we would be looking at the possibility of providing a safe, multimodal, and resilient transportation system, supporting downtown Algiers Village economic development and revitalization, and then if we can find things to do that are feasible, how would we go from feasibility study to project implementation?
Okay, because I happen to be at a WRC meeting,
Okay.
WRC meeting right before now, and with Chris Campany, and I talked to Chris Campany and Jackie Casino from V-Trans. Chris is on the review process for this grant, and Jackie runs this grant, and I said it was coming up tonight at the select board meeting. Can you give me some more information about what you think? And what I told them what I thought the grant was, that's why I wanted clarification, because I wasn't sure, had to do with road safety. How they explained this to me was that this grant is really for, it's very, very competitive. Mm-hmm. So that one of their points was there might be less competitive ways to get what we need. Mm-hmm. The other thing that they talked about was, how Chris described it to me was, this is really for a project that you know and you've done all the legwork for. Mm-hmm. So he gave the example of, you generally know you want a trail from here to here, and this grant is to just put that plan in place. You know you have the stakeholders in place, and you know you can show that it's like shovel ready, you can implement. So what I'm hearing now is that this is actually like a step back from that. We're looking for feasibility, that we don't have a clear plan with stakeholders potentially.
We don't have a clear plan. We would have to develop relationships with and partnerships so that we could then plan to see if there is a plan to do that. But we can't get to January without that.
Right, but what I'm saying,
conversations.
You're saying
we're
it's
talking about road safety, well, and then it becomes an implementation. So if it's road safety, which I think is, I'm not sure what the driver is, but that seemed what it, you talked about a trail, that seems like something you could do outside of this grant and potentially less, the other thing they said is this grant is very intense. So it takes intense writing-wise, application-wise. Yeah. So there might be a way to get a trail in a smaller grant that might be more easily gotten with less town resources put out there. And the other thing, if it's road safety, Jackie and Chris both suggested doing the exact thing that Mark Pickering suggested, is free.
Yeah.
And Jackie said, V-Trans will work with you to do sort of
the audit, you mean?
The audit they can definitely do for free, and then if you come up with some sort of safety measures that you wanted to implement, to a certain extent they will do that. It's not going to be like bells and whistles, but they can work with you to do that. So it might be, their suggestion was to go that route rather than go on a very intense grant writing, stakeholder sort of route. That was their personal opinion when I brought it up, because
that's an interesting piece of the puzzle, because they're the people who run the grant.
Well, and that's what Chris said. He said, I've seen it, it's just very, very competitive, and he wasn't sure that where we were right now was going to be a good place. I know it's a roadmap to get there, but that maybe if there's pieces that we are trying trying to put into place that there might be easier ways for us.
But it's your,
And WRC would help us sort of could help us find those ways if we asked.
but is this what you're proposing to a roadmap that might suggest that we can't get to where we want to go?
Yeah.
And we wouldn't do the application?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But each of the steps that are outlined in here, partnering with V-Trans to make the half-mile section of the roof-side corridor safe, depending on, explore how to do that, orchestrate a series of public meetings to gauge voter and resident support about the road safety, document all the events and measures, look at better traffic calming measures, including crosswalk, sidewalks, road narrowing, look at speed limit changes, look at safe bicycle and pedestrian access through Algiers Village and to reach Brattleboro. Can we create paths between the industrial park and the Commonwealth Dairy Park through the conserved land there to get to the store, to increase business to the store.
And get to the ice cream parlor.
Yeah, pedestrian access to Blueberry House. So all of these things, in a way, these things are responsive to people's concerns have been raised to the select board about traffic safety in Algiers Village for years, and also in Guilford Center. And so I think all of these questions are worth working on this year, whether they lead us to a feasibility study project at the end of the year or something else, some other avenues, and then we will learn a lot in the discovery process. So that's kind of why I presented this, that maybe we'll get to the Better Connections grant, maybe we won't, but we have a good roadmap for things that we should be looking at this coming year. So the question before the select board is, should I present this as well to the planning commission?
I would say yes and see what they say.
I don't think we need to present the road safety audit report request to the planning commission. I think the select board can just ask V-Trans to do that. But I would like to know if the select board supports presenting this
I do.
Algiers Village Guilford master plan thing.
I think it'd be helpful to have a sense of how much town resources this would take. I mean, I guess I'd like to do it in steps and say, okay, what can we get for free? What makes sense? And say, okay, let's get our audit in both areas where we've had complaints, and then look at both areas and say, okay, what can we reasonably do in both areas? Once we have the audit, and take it from there, and then you can start looking at, okay, let's do the research on the grants rather than sort of engage all these stakeholders before it's just a lot of time and resources. And I'd like to sort of have I personally, I'm not going to be on the select board anymore, so I don't care, but I would.
Oh, you still care.
But if you're going to use town resources to do this, is this a grant worth pursuing? Or, I think it's good to go down the road of having the audit and looking at both the two centers where we've had complaints, but once we get some results and feedback, maybe say, okay, where do we go from here, and make a plan that makes sense once we have some more information.
What do you foresee as the resources that would be needed to
I think we would
discuss
just
this
hold a
with
couple of
planning
community
commission?
meetings. I go to the meeting of the planning commission. I actually think that a lot of the work has been done in the Algiers Village Vision Plan already, in terms of visualizing how things could be in Algiers Village, and that was based on a major contribution of effort and on Wyndham Regional Council. I think the commission, they spent about $15,000 of their resources on that Algiers Village Plan. So we have much of the groundwork done. We do need to hold a couple more community meetings, but that is one of the things that the select board has agreed to do on a more regular basis anyway. So in terms of expanding community engagement in different issues. So,
well, I know that in Guilford Center there are residents of Guilford Center who are very concerned about traffic and also a kind of evolving vision. And so there are people who are already on board to get active on these things when we start these steps. And so I think that presenting this to the planning commission and also finding out what their thinking has been about this is certainly low impact in terms of, work for anybody. And I am very excited actually about the audit. I think that has a lot to offer us.
So I'm going to ask for a separate vote on that, but
Yeah, that's a no-brainer,
yeah.
to do that.
Do we have to vote on this, or we just express support or not?
No, I
I don't think you
kind
need
of
to vote
express.
on it.
I mean, at some point, I will be, if we were to apply for a grant, I would be saying, excuse me, we need letters of support from V-Trans, which we got in 2018, from the planning commission, from Wyndham Regional, from, I don't know, BDCC, if they were to, and from the 4 nonprofits, who have already said they're really enthusiastic about this for Algiers Village. And so, then we need to formally approve the process and go through that, which we did not do in 2018. We did not understand the complexity of the grant. Gabby is right. It is a hard grant to do. It is very competitive. And I don't know that we would get it, but we would certainly do a lot of valuable work going through this process. So.
And I would just also caution, like what WRC did was money for brownfields area-wide assessment.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full-on planning with, a lot of community outreach with a lot of different partners. It was really just for some to help a particular group of nonprofits, and it was really just brownfields area-wide plan. So I wouldn't, I would just look into that. It wasn't an all-out planning process.
Well, this is certainly not shovel-ready,
No.
as they say.
But I think it is a
it's
roadmap
looking-
to consider moving forward on, together with the planning commission and with other partners in the town, and see if we can build partnerships with other people about this. So I think, I guess it would be good if we had an agreement, a motion to move forward on this.
I so move.
What are we moving forward? I just want to be clear what we're moving forward on.
Moving that I would move that the select board support moving forward on the roadmap towards an application.
Towards considering an
Towards
application.
considering an application. And presenting it to the planning commission.
Yeah, and I would just caution, they might change this grant application too. So I'm just putting it out there.
So I could name this something different other than Better Connections 2020.
I think it might be good to just say we're going to look at traffic calming and other ways to improve our 2 village centers, and bring that to the planning commission.
But that leaves out the step,
Working with Brattleboro.
the steps towards exploring whether we should make a proposal.
I don't think it limits it one way or the other. I'm just saying let's look at all of our options and not say it's towards this one grant. I'd really like to hear what the planning commission has to say too, and not say this is what I'm sort of pigeonholing you with, because it might be that grant's not the right thing and that there's other options for the town that might be better suited.
Well, how,
Could we present the objectives of this
So,
without the verbiage of looking for a grant? I mean,
I think
can't you
that's
just-
better, because I think then
can't you
you'll open
just-
your options.
Yeah, that's
you
what you're
know,
saying.
Yeah, so.
yeah, I can change, I can certainly, this is, as I said, this is a draft.
Right.
This is
I thought it
just
was
trying to
very
figure out
good.
what a concept would be, who might be partnering, what
Right.
the stakeholders would be, and what we would consider in terms of, what the applications, traffic calming measures, speed limit changes, bicycle safety,
So-
pedestrian safety.
Instead of
And the
saying,
connectivity
moving towards a
around.
grant, just say, moving toward the improvement of those 2 areas.
those-
Regardless
to amend
of the
your-
grant.
Yes, I would. Are you in, are you?
That's
on?
fine, yeah, no, this was,
okay,
I
so do we have the
presented-
wording?
So I move that we support investigating the improvement of traffic and other
Traffic safety measures.
traffic safety measures in Algiers and Guilford Center.
Maybe to improve towards economic vitality
Yes.
and
Quality of life.
Quality of life.
There you
Yes,
go.
Sorry.
That's good. You okay with that?
I hope you got every word of that.
I did my best.
Because I have to edit
There's
this.
always going to be Ian's lovely video to assist
Thank
me.
you.
Oh, was I
BT,
supposed to turn it on?
Oh, yeah. There's no red light there, Ian. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And thanks for your work on the.
Thank you. I had
Yes.
some good help and some good input from
And
others.
thanks for your talking to the grant makers.
And thank you,
That's
Danny,
really-
for giving. Okay,
Thanks, Danny.
I need another, I need to have another motion. Should the town of Guilford request that V-Trans conduct a Guilford Road Safety Audit Report for both Algiers Village and Guilford.
I
So move.
Can't let Gordon do that. I'll second
Gordon,
it.
second. Any changes to the audit, the request thing that I drafted for this? Did people have any input on that?
You mean?
Algiers Village safety issues include Route 5 and Guilford
yeah.
Center Road intersect the speed through the village, cars exiting the Guilford Country Store in the Woodcock Building, lack of
Right.
safe space for pedestrians and bicyclists, lack of marked crosswalks, handicap access, accommodation for completion of complete streets, which is basically road safety for pedestrians and bicycles, and contemplation for future growth and development. And for adding safety of school children in Guilford Center, and speed through village, lack of marked crosswalks, lack of safe space. Is that, everybody have
Sounded good to
anything,
me.
have anything to add to that?
So what was
Take
the
away.
action again?
Should the town
So
of,
you moved, Richard?
No, Gordon did.
moved.
I seconded
Gordon
it.
moved, sorry.
the town of Guilford should request V-Trans to conduct a
An audit.
road safety audit for Algiers Village and Guilford Center. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
That's
you.
really great that they're gonna do that.
Yes,
It is.
I had a really nice conversation with Mark last week on that, so.
What is his job? Mark Pickering?
He's the regional,
Okay.
something V-Trans. Never know.
He covers us.
Gordon or Gabby, do you want to do the warrants?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we pay the following warrants. Payroll week ending February 3rd, 2019 for $8,183.11. Payroll week ending February 10th, 2019 for $6,245.54, and expense warrant number 1915 for $28,408.62, for a grand total of $42,837.27. And of the expense warrant 1915, as Danny mentioned, it was mostly gravel, salt, I'm sorry, sand, salt, and repairs to our equipment that made up almost a third, more than a third.
More than a
not-
third.
Yeah, it wasn't quite a half, but it was more than a third.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Communications, Peter.
So, as, at the last meeting, as Sheila shared with all of you, she had a conversation with Wyndham Solid Waste about the town utilizing some solar credits from the new solar field there. I have been working with Sky Solar and their manager of that program. And so as of last Thursday, or beginning last Thursday, we will be getting the solar credits applied to the town office energy bill. I still have 3 or 4 outstanding questions for them as far as whether the amount that is being applied, if that's being applied monthly or is being applied annually. It is 4 kilowatts, kilowatt hours. So it's not a huge amount, but it's something that will be helpful. And in that process, we also learned that we cannot apply solar credits from 2 different programs to one electricity bill. And so the town had been periodically getting some small credits from the fire department. And so with coordination with Dan Ingold, who oversees the program at the fire department, that there's a discussion back and forth, and they agreed to apply that to the town garage electric bill. So
If there is one, or will there be one?
when there is, not if, when there is one.
Gotcha.
So some, particularly during the spring through fall, they often have one. Green Mountain Power kind of changed the program and how it works. It used to be just one lump amount at the end of the year, and now it's on a monthly basis. So now both the garage and the town office will both be getting solar credits.
Do we have an understanding of what those 4 solar credits that will be
We've been
killed?
trying to get it.
That's part of your questions, thank you.
I have
Okay.
3 outstanding
No
emails
problem.
and a voicemail that have not been responded to.
Fair enough.
So then the last one is just brief communication. Since you've already approved the budget, we were notified that the G Suite, which we use for our town office services, all you guys use, will be going up as of April 1st. That Google rolled out this product, they said 10 years ago in April, and that they have added at least 10 products to the service
Suite,
line
yeah.
during that time. And this is the first price increase in 10 years. And so it'll be for professional users such as the town, it'll be increasing $2 per user per month. So that was not budgeted for, because they just announced that last week.
How many users are there
Yeah, how
now?
many users?
We currently have 14 users, so it'll be $28 a month that it will be increasing by. I just wanted the select board to know.
Thank you.
And that is all of the communications that I had for you guys.
Can I just make one? One thing that was brought up at one of my WRC meetings was had to do with the constable. And it turns out that constables apparently, and somebody might want to look this up because it's just going on what I'm told, really their only purpose is to serve to, I guess, control people at town meeting. You can give them extra law type duties, which seems to be what Guilford has done, but you don't have to. So if we're having an issue with the constable, one of the things we might want to consider doing is pulling back their capacity, and that might actually, A, we want to keep training people and they leave because that's sort of expensive, and B, we might be more apt to get someone if they just need to do 1 day a year.
You mean be sort of like a
Enforcer.
sergeant at arms?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Blimey.
So, yes, that is
So
absolutely.
I'm
We'll
just,
serve
you
them
know,
that commitment.
So both of what the items that Gabby just said are correct. Their
I
original
appreciate it, isn't it?
purpose of them was to control the crowds at town meeting. And then as things change in the state and law enforcement needs increased, many towns, through state legislation, were then able to grant their constables more powers.
Is that something we should put on?
It sounds like an agenda item, but it doesn't look like this very complex. We have a 5-page thing on what the constable's roles and responsibilities are from.
And we haven't had
VLCT
an acting
handbook.
constable, well,
In a year.
that's not fair.
Well, almost a
A
year.
year, but
6
prior to
months.
that,
And
it had been a
so,
while.
I guess it says we can say that if we
Jacob.
ask them to enact, to execute law enforcement, then we don't need to ask them to do that, so.
and then we don't need to pay. I mean, it's just a thought to put out there since we're having such an issue,
Thank you
and then
for-
we do have
No, it's
to
good.
pay money for
I
it,
didn't
so.
realize that was the
I didn't
limited
either.
role.
I'll go, yeah, maybe we can have this on the agenda for next.
And
That's
with the
really
state looking at,
interesting. I mean, I would be very interested to read about what the constable can do and what the constable must do.
I'll send this to you, Miranda.
Pardon me?
I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
Well,
I
both-
mean, just for my education.
Well, VLCT has done quite a bit of work, research on the history of constables, as well as I don't remember the exact name of the organization, but the Vermont Association of Constables has also done quite a bit of research on the history of them.
Well, great. Well, town meeting in 1968 was, remember, Richard? It was much more theatrical even than it has been for ages. So maybe they needed people to,
Control the crowds.
a sergeant at arms.
I can't actually
Scary
see anything here about town meeting, but I'll look more closely.
Is this something
Look
we
into
should
that.
put on an agenda for?
I just asked Peter to put it on for the next meeting.
Yeah, well, I can Google it and see whether I could come up with anything.
Brenda, I'll send you this, it's from the
Oh,
Town
terrific.
Officer's Handbook,
Oh, I have the town officer's handbook, so I can.
page 23 through 27.
Page 23, okay. As good as done.
So, who would like to move
I will
that we
move.
adjourn the
We
meeting?
adjourn the meeting.
I second.
At 7:19.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned at 7:19.
Wow, that's a record.
Ah.
A record.